My beloved child, pause right here in this very moment and listen deeply. For what I am about to speak is not information. It is a spiritual turning point touching the very breath within you. There are hours in a person's life that happen only once. Like the brief moment when the sea splits open for a single wave, and those who recognize it will cross, while those who hesitate will miss it. This is that hour. This is the moment I stir the ground beneath your feet to remind you that you can no longer remain asleep in familiar places. I am calling you out of the fog that has clung to your thoughts, out of the nights you endured alone, out of the misalignment that made you believe you were weakening, when in truth, I was pulling you out of what had held you captive for far too long. This call is not gentle because this moment is not gentle. It sounds like the trumpet of watchmen on the walls, awakening your soul before the new season breaks forth. You must understand that some truths can no longer be contained, just as light cannot be hidden under a bowl, and my word cannot return without accomplishing what I sent it to do. Your soul is standing before a boundary line, and that line is no longer invisible. It is being revealed through the very restlessness you've felt these past weeks. You thought it was stress, fatigue, or emotional overwhelm. But I tell you, it was a spiritual signal. It was my knock on the door of your inner being. The same knock I used when calling my people into new seasons. You are hearing it not because you are weak, but because you are sensitive to the movement of heaven. Yet if you do not awaken, you will misinterpret what I am doing. What I want you to recognize right now is this: the spiritual urgency surrounding you is not meant to threaten you. It is meant to pull you out of a false reality you have lived in for too long. You have believed things about yourself that were not true. You have carried judgments that did not come from me. You have accepted limits spoken over your life by people who never saw your depth. You have held on to the "you can't," the enemy whispered in your weakest moments. But the time for those voices has ended. I am stepping onto your ground to declare that truth must now rise. I did not come to simply soothe your fears, I came to uproot them. I did not come to ease your chains, I came to break them at the foundation. The truth is this: there are things within you that have been locked away for too long. Gifts covered in dust. Capacities you never dared to use. Depths you never entered because you told yourself you were not enough, not ready, or not worthy. But I am breathing the same breath I once used to summon my people from captivity. I am not merely saying, "Do not fear." I am saying, "Stand up and come out." This is not merely comfort, it is a decree. When my light touches darkness, darkness does not negotiate, it withdraws. And what is retreating now is the fog that has kept you from recognizing your true worth. I know you have walked through a long season that felt endless. The nights you lay silently staring at the ceiling, wondering, where am I going? When will I see what I've hoped for? I saw your quiet tears, the ones you hid so no one would worry. There were moments you asked yourself, did I do something wrong? Am I far from God? But I affirm this with absolute clarity. I have not been distant for even a second. You are only in a moment when I must silence the old reassurances so you can hear a new calling. Just as I led my people into the wilderness not to harm them, but so they could hear my voice without distraction, you are in that very place now. The urgency you feel is real, but it is not the urgency of fear, it is the urgency of transition. You are standing at the edge of your former self, while your new self waits just ahead. The tension you feel is because your soul has reached the expiration date of old things. When I prepare someone for freedom, they always feel the tightness of what no longer fits, like clothing too small for the person they have become. You are outgrowing your previous season. That is why everything suddenly feels restrictive. Do not misinterpret this, it is not failure. It is the signal that the old season can no longer contain you. Hear this with the force of lightning tearing through the night. You are standing at the threshold of breakthrough freedom. Not freedom based on changed circumstances, but freedom based on unveiled truth. Not freedom in emotion, but in identity, not temporary freedom, but freedom with roots. When I open a person's eyes to truth, every invisible chain falls off. Darkness cannot bind someone who knows they belong to the light. And that is exactly what I am doing in you. Scripture says that when I call someone out of darkness, I lead them into my marvelous light, a light that not only illuminates, but shapes. You are being led into that light, not a fragile light, but a consuming one that makes deception shrink, makes fear bow, and silences every accusation. And as you stand in this light, you will understand why the familiar things have felt so unfamiliar lately. I do not allow you to settle in things that are beneath your calling. My child, the spiritual turning point unfolding in you is not happening because you have done enough. It is happening because now I have done enough. You do not need to try to free yourself. I have come to break the chains. You do not need to try to be confident. I have come to define you. You do not need to try to be strong. I have come to place strength in the very place where you feel weakest. I am not calling you into a new season with a whisper. I am calling you with the thunder of heaven declaring, "Rise." And from this moment on, you will no longer live by instinct, but by revelation. No longer by memory, but by truth. No longer by fear of what people think, but by the affirmation of the one who called you out of darkness into his light. There are moments when I see your soul so weary that one well-timed word of kindness, one sincere affirmation, or even a small touch would be enough to help you breathe deeper again. Like someone who has run through a heavy rain and only needs to step under a warm-lit porch to feel their heart settle. I want you to know that I am that porch for you. You do not need to stand out in the storm and try to dry yourself, fix yourself, or put yourself back together like the world's advertisements for self-cleaning or self-repairing things. You are not an object that must fix itself. You are a child who must be cared for. And I am here to care, not to evaluate. The truth is, you have spent years carrying everything alone, until "I'm fine" became your automatic answer, even when you knew you were not fine at all. You came to believe that showing weakness made you worth less, like a scratched item that loses value on the shelf. But I want you to hear with your soul, you are not on a shelf for anyone to choose. You are in my hands. You are not valued by the standards of this world. You are loved by the standards of heaven. I do not look at you the way people look at damaged goods. I look at you the way a father looks at his child, precious even when tired, beloved even when tangled, worthy of tending even when bruised. There are moments when you scroll through your phone and compare the quiet, blurry days of your life to the perfectly captured moments others display. You ask yourself, why am I not like that? Why am I not as radiant? Why am I still wandering in my own shadows? But I want you to know that those images are only the best seconds of them on display. I see the raw, tired, honest version of you that I still love, still choose, and still lift. I do not need you to shine like them. I need you to shine in the way I planted within you from the beginning. That light is not glamorous, it is deep, steady, and true. And that kind of light awakens real freedom. I know there are days you walk past the mirror without looking because you fear seeing the dullness in your face. The eyes that have been sad so long they have forgotten how to shine. You hurry so you do not have to face yourself. But if you paused, you would see me standing just behind that reflection, looking at you with tenderness, not judgment. I do not see failure in your eyes. I see stories you have not told, efforts you have not voiced, and tears you swallowed so no one would worry. I did not come to ask why you are weak. I came to say you do not need to be strong alone. Where you fall, I cushion. Where you crack, I mend. Where you ache, I hold. On the days that feel unlucky, when messages disappoint, when work becomes heavier, When your mind fogs like dawn mist, I am there to draw you back. Not with thunder, but with the whisper-soft warmth of a cup of tea set beside a window. Do you see? The things that calm the soul are rarely grand. They are simply reminders of safety. And I am that reminder. I am not calling you into freedom by force, but by the gentle voice that says, "Breathe, I am here." When you let your heart rest on that truth, invisible chains fall away on their own. There are times you try to perfect everything, hoping the feeling of being loved or accepted will return like a marketing campaign trying to polish a product to make it more appealing. But my love for you is not a campaign. I do not love you based on seasons, performance, or appearance. I love you out of my nature, a love unchanging, unwavering, incomparable. You do not need to be better to be loved. You only need to be you. And it is the you that brings heaven closer. I also see the nights when you lie on your side, pulling the blanket up to your shoulders, trying to create a sense of safety for yourself. You think no one sees that, but I do. I see you whisper to yourself, "It will pass." When, deep down, you long for someone to say it with you, and I do say it. I tell you, it will pass, because I walk with you, not as empty comfort, not as a polite phrase, but as a truth proven in every season of your life. You have survived what you once thought would break you, and you are here because I held you, even when you did not know you were being held. And now I want to place in you a declaration strong and steady, like the foundation upon which you will stand without trembling. You are not a weak person trying to be strong. You are a strong person being healed. Healing does not diminish your value. It restores your true worth. Every moment you thought you were losing was actually a moment I was stripping away false chains so you could enter true freedom. Not one wound of yours intimidates me. You are not broken, you are in transformation. And I want you to understand this as well. Freedom is not a feeling, it is an identity. You do not wait for freedom to come, you step into it. You do not wait for fear to leave, you rise in the midst of it. You do not wait for circumstances to shift, you shift because you know who walks with you. When you know that I am the one who brings my people out of bondage with a mighty hand, you will understand that I will not leave you bound by invisible chains. You are not stuck in your old version. You are being opened layer by layer, rhythm by rhythm, breath by breath. There is something I must tell you clearly before you move into the deeper part of this journey. Spiritual freedom does not come only when you break out of what bound you, but when you recognize what bound you in the first place. Many things you once called destiny, personality, or circumstance were in truth invisible bands the darkness tried to place on you when you were tired, when you were weak, or when you were wounded. What I am doing today is not only cutting those bands, I am shining light so you can see them. For you can only walk the full path of freedom when you know what is true, what is false, what is my voice, and what is not. That discernment is what will keep you from ever being pulled back into the dark again. What I want you to awaken to is not fear, but steadiness. When you lack discernment, you easily mistake what you feel for what is real. You begin to believe that sudden thoughts of worthlessness are my voice, or that delay is punishment. But I do not punish you with delay. I lead you with truth. And truth always heals before it corrects, lifts before it aligns, and gives hope before it asks for change. If you hear a voice that makes you want to hide from me, blame yourself, or shrink. That voice is not mine. My voice always draws you toward the light, even when it warns, even when it touches a wound, even when it leads you to face what you have avoided for too long. I need to say this to you with urgency, yet with the gentleness of a hand on your shoulder. Do not grow familiar with what enslaves you. There are habits, thoughts, and rhythms you have lived with so long that you've mistaken them for your nature. But they are only reactions of a soul once wounded. If you treat your wounds as your identity, you will live your whole life trying to keep water inside a cracked vessel. I did not make you to live leaking. I made you to live full. I will not let you remain in the regions of shame, comparison, or fear of abandonment. The turning point of freedom begins the moment you realize I owe nothing to the old any longer. There are things you must allow yourself to release, not because they are evil, but because they no longer fit who you are now. You have outgrown the habits that slowed you, outgrown the connections that drained you, outgrown the fears that once dictated your emotions. You are not living in your old version anymore, so you cannot keep carrying old luggage. A warrior does not enter a new battle wearing armor that has already been pierced. One crossing a desert does not carry a water skin that is already empty. And a soul stepping into freedom cannot carry the accusations that once imprisoned it. I also want you to hear this plainly. Without it wounding you, you must learn to say no to what does not draw you closer to me. Your heart is large. Your spirit is soft. And because of that, you often hold on to things that hurt you simply because you are afraid to let go. But kindness is not a burden, and what I call you to does not require you to cling to what harms your soul. Sometimes the turning point of freedom does not come from doing more, it comes from stopping, laying things down. You cannot fly with wings weighed down by what pulls you to the ground, and I want you to fly. But understand this: when I draw you into freedom, I do not pull only the strong parts of you, I pull the weak, the trembling, the uncertain, the self-blaming parts too. I am not asking you to be perfect before you step out. I am asking you to be true. Truth is what makes you free, not strength. The truth that you need me. The truth that you cannot heal yourself completely. The truth that you've carried things that were never yours to carry. The truth that you've used a smile to cover places still bleeding. When you dare to say, I need you, that is when I place a great sign within your soul that reads, freedom begins here. And I do not want you to misunderstand. Freedom does not mean you will never face struggle again. No, true freedom is not a smooth road. It is the road you walk with open eyes, a bright heart, and my hand holding yours. Darkness will try to push back, but it no longer gets the final say. Emotions may rise and fall, but they no longer command you. False voices may whisper, but they no longer have the power to bend you. For a free soul is not a perfect soul. It is a soul that knows it belongs to the light and refuses to return to slavery. What I want you to practice from now on is stepping back for a moment whenever fear rises. Not stepping back to hide, but to see with my eyes. When fear surges, ask, where is this voice coming from? When shame tries to return, remember, it has already been removed from my life. When comparison pulls you downward, whisper, I was not made to resemble anyone else. When darkness tries to reopen an old door, declare, this door has been sealed by truth. That is how you guard your freedom, not with force, but with awareness. And now I must speak this as prophecy. As the final decree of this message, you will not return to the place you escaped from. I do not lead you in circles. I lead you forward, deeper, upward. No scheme of darkness can take shape in your life once I have said, enough. No accusation can bind you when I have erased it. No wound can govern you when my hand has touched it. You do not step into freedom because you are strong. You step into freedom because I have called you by your true name. And your true name is not weak, inadequate, left behind, or too late. Your true name is redeemed, called released, formed to walk. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the one who walks out of it. You are no longer waiting for a miracle. You carry the miracle I placed within you from the moment you were formed. And you no longer live pulled backward by the past. You live pulled forward by my voice calling you into your future. Rise with that truth. Breathe deeply. Let your soul know that from this moment on, the turning point of freedom has begun. There are things I want to gently lay over your soul, like a father placing a soft blanket on a child still trembling from an old wind. You have walked through this message as though walking through a great doorway, but I know your heart still holds strands of emotion not yet smoothed. Freedom is not only the moment I declare it, it is the journey of learning to believe that declaration. And so I will walk slowly with you, step by step, breath by breath, through every place you thought was healed but still aches when touched. I am not in a hurry, for love is never in a hurry. I am here to repeat, to remind, to reorder, so that your heart can rest fully upon the foundation of truth I have laid for you. My child, many times you thought you had already become strong, yet just one careless word from someone, one slight sting from a memory, or one emotion rising from nowhere made your heart curl in on itself like it was all new again. You thought it meant you were weak, but I tell you it only means you are healing. There are wounds that require time, that need my hand placed on them again and again, that need entire seasons to regenerate. Do not see this process as slow. See it as proof that you are retrieving the parts of yourself that the years once tried to steal. No one runs into freedom in a single day. People walk, fall, rise, and walk again, and I walk beside every step, without missing even half a beat. I remember the days you sat alone, staring into the distance as if facing a battle inside your mind that no one else could see. You weren't crying out loud, but within you, an entire storm was pressing against your ribs. I stood very close when you told yourself, maybe it's just me, but my child, it was never just you. I saw, I heard, I felt, I held everything. You thought no one knew the storm inside you, but I knew every detail, from the moment you forced a smile to hide it, to the breath you held so no one would ask what was wrong. I knew the moments you wanted to give up but still clung to a thread of fragile hope, and that small thread was enough for me to act. There are days when freedom looks like nothing has changed, yet your soul is shifting inside. You do not see a tree growing every hour, but it grows. You do not hear the earth turning, but it turns. You do not feel your heart healing moment by moment, but I am doing that work without resting. I want you to understand this. The greatest changes always happen where your eyes cannot see. Do not measure yourself by what you observe each day. Measure yourself by the voice I am placing within you. You are far different from 3 months ago, from a year ago, or from the last rainy season. You are growing in places where others thought you would collapse. You are standing in places you once feared you would drown. You are walking in places you once thought you lacked the strength to reach. And all of this is evidence freedom is sprouting. Let me explain this gently. Freedom is not the absence of pain. It is the place where pain no longer commands you. It is not the absence of tears. It is the truth that every tear falls into my hands, not into loneliness. It is not that you never touch old memories again. It is that the old memories no longer have the authority to define you. You may remember, but you no longer tremble. You may feel a sting, but you no longer freeze. You may grow tired, but you no longer want to run from yourself. This is the deepest stage of freedom, when what once imprisoned you can no longer make your legs shake. I want to open my heart to you about this. None of the years you endured were wasted. I saw every layer of endurance you built, every beat of faithfulness you kept, every moment you chose what was right, even when it hurt. These things are like the soil beneath the surface of a field. No one notices it, but I see it. I see, and I reward every time you refuse to quit, You were sowing into a season you haven't seen yet. Every time you chose patience, you were building a spiritual fortress. Every time you chose kindness, you were opening a road I will use. Do not think any of it was without purpose. I have gathered it all and am using it in this very hour of your life, the turning point. There were days I saw you wake up with a heart heavy as stone. Yet you kept going. You worked. You spoke. You thought. You lived as if nothing was wrong. You never praised yourself. But I want to praise you. That is resilience. That is strength. That is proof you were made in my image, not because you were the strongest, but because you did not give up. People see the victories of others, but I see your silent battles, and those battles moved heaven. I do not require perfection from you. I only desire that you be honest with yourself. When you are honest with me, I turn that honesty into strength. I want you to picture something simple, not glamorous, but real you sitting in your familiar room, holding a warm cup of water, the light slipping softly through a narrow opening. Nothing spectacular, yet that moment is true peace. I want the peace within you to be just like that, not loud, not performative, not demanding perfection, only that you know I am there, and that you are allowed to lean on me. You do not need to act strong. You do not need to hide your pain. You do not need to pretend you are not tired. You only need to tell me I am here, and I need you. That alone is enough for me to enter the deepest parts of your life. Sometimes you ask me silently, without words, why is everything so hard? I do not demand that you ask that question in a spiritual way. I accept it exactly as you say it. And I want to answer you with a truth that does not weigh you down because you are being reshaped. Every reshaping carries tension. When a potter gathers clay to form a new vessel, the clay must endure pressure. But that pressure is not meant to destroy, it is meant to shape. I am the potter. You are the vessel being remade stronger, deeper, more beautiful. If you feel pressure, remember I am holding the entire process. Not a single press is too much for you. Not a single corner is overlooked. Not a single line is made in excess. And now, my child, let me say this to you in a private way. As though I am sitting right beside you, you are not late, not wrong, not abandoned. You are not living slowly, you are living rightly. You are not off course, you are being led. You are not less than others, you are being built according to a blueprint no one else carries. I do not copy destinies. I do not recycle plans. I write a story for each person with my own hand. And your story is written by my real hand, not a draft, not a trial version, not a borrowed script. It is the original, and you are walking in that original story. Even if you have not yet realized the depth of it, I want you to know this freedom is not something you must fight for. It is a gift I place in your hands. You do not need to struggle, run, or prove. You only need to open your hands. Many times you clenched them tight because you feared loss, betrayal, hurt, or being forgotten. But closed hands cannot receive a gift. Gently, I tell you, open your hands, and then you will see what I place there, not fame, not status, not loud success, but true peace, true freedom, true worth, and a true future. A future not built on false voices, but grounded in what I myself declare over you. There is something I want you to carve deeply into your heart. You are not only being freed from the things you know, but also from the things you have never named. Many times you are aware only of the obvious wounds, a past mistake, an old hurt, a person who once broke your heart, but beneath all of that are tiny, almost invisible strings tying your soul to feelings you assumed were normal. The fear of being abandoned, the habit of pleasing others, the anxiety of stepping into something new, the trembling before doors you've longed for. All these strings I am loosening gently, not with force, but with subtle, tender touches that allow each knot to release on its own. I do not untangle with haste, I untangle with love, and love always works in its own way quietly, without display, without urgency. The love I give you is not like the love the world teaches you. It does not say, "Be good, then I will love you." But I love you, therefore you will become good. It does not say, "Be strong, then I will hold your hand." But I hold your hand, therefore you will become strong. Hear this, and let your heart soften. Your freedom does not come from striving to be worthy. It comes from allowing me to enter the places you have hidden. When you open the door, I step in. When you open your heart, I heal. When you open your hands, I give. And you do not need to do anything to earn my love except allow it to touch you. Think of your life's journey as a long road where many parts were once covered with dry leaves, wild grass, and dust. You walked through it without noticing because you were accustomed to believing. This is just how my life is. But now I am lighting that path. I am clearing sections you thought no one cared about. I am restoring stones you once tripped over. I am sweeping away the layers of fear that settled like dust. You believed you only deserved an old, worn path. But I am building a new one beneath your feet. It is not dazzling like fireworks. It is gentle like morning mist. But step by step, you will recognize this is the path I belong to. Remember, this freedom does not arrive in moments of excitement. It arrives in the moment you truly know that you are not defined by darkness. You are defined by light. I know light sometimes feels blinding when you've grown accustomed to dimness. But light does not come to scare you. It comes to show you clearly. I do not want you to walk in uncertainty. I want you to see your worth, your direction, and my work in your life. I want you to see that you are not late, not lacking, and never out of my reach. There are seasons you had to walk through, my silence, and those were the seasons that made you think you had done something wrong. But silence is not distance. Silence is the way I help you hear your true rhythm. It is the time when I want you to seek less validation from the outside and begin listening to the voice I planted within. Not everyone understands my silence, but you will, because that is when I place deep roots in you. Seeds do not sprout in noise, they grow in stillness. You thought that silence was emptiness, but it was the birthing room of your turning point. You did not know, but I knew. You could not see, but I could. You could not hold the timing, but I held it firmly. Let me tell you something small but profound. Many times you tormented yourself thinking you were too sensitive, too weak, too tired, too complicated. But I say to you that sensitivity is grace. It helps you hear what others cannot. That weakness is the doorway for me to reveal strength. That exhaustion is the signal that you need me, not more effort. That complexity is not a flaw. It is proof that your soul has many layers, many colors, many depths that I designed from the beginning. You are not excessive in any detail. You are not wrong in any part. You are simply learning to see yourself with my eyes, my child. I also want you to know that the people who hurt you are not the measure by which you should assess your worth. Pain once made you shrink as if you had become smaller. But you did not shrink, you simply curled inward because of a wound. But now I am healing that wound so you can stand straight again. Not to prove anything, but to live rightly. I do not want you to spend your whole life running from pain. I want you to walk into your future with peace. I have seen how you kept silent to protect others, how you yielded even when your heart broke, how you chose quietness so no one else would be harmed. I honor all of that. But I also want you to know it is time for you to be loved in the way I love, not in the way you had to strain to maintain. May the word of the Lord continually remind you each day to live in His faith and His love. Remember to follow and turn on notifications so you won't miss the sacred and meaningful messages God desires to speak to you. May the Lord bless you. Amen.